I never planned to join them. I never wanted to. I used to laugh at the idea of secret societies, old men in dark rooms, candles burning, speaking in riddles no one cared to understand. But the truth is, no one ever thinks they'll be the kind of person who gets manipulated. You don't realize you re-trapped until the door closes and you cannot remember when you stepped through it. It started with a client. I was an architect, mid-level, underpaid, trying to build a reputation. When I was approached by an older gentleman named Mr. Rowan about restoring a historical lodge on the outskirts of town, it felt like a real opportunity. He told me the structure dated back to the late 1800s, full of Masonic symbolism. "It's not active anymore," he said. "We're just preserving history." That word, preserving, sounded harmless, so I agreed. The first time I visited, the building seemed ordinary enough. 2 stories of weathered stone, heavy oak doors, and a roof that bowed slightly in the middle. But the deeper I walked in, the more I felt something watching. The air carried that smell of old wood and wax, the kind that lingers even after centuries. On one wall, the faint outline of a compass and square was carved so shallowly you'd miss it unless light hit at the right angle. Mr. Rowan followed my gaze and smiled. "Geometry," he said, "the language of all builders." He always talked like that, in phrases that sounded like they meant more than they should. When I asked about who funded the restoration, he waved a hand. "Old members, philanthropists, you'll meet them soon." We met weekly for updates. Every time there was someone new sitting beside him. Lawyers, businessmen, professors, each polite, each curious about me. They asked about my life, my beliefs, my habits. "Do you believe in patterns?" one of them asked once. I thought he meant architecture. I said, "Of course." They nodded like I'd given the right answer. 2 months passed before anything strange happened. One evening, after reviewing plans, Rowan handed me a small envelope. "A token of appreciation," he said. Inside was an invitation embossed with gold. "Dinner at the lodge, Friday, 8 p.m. Formal attire." I thought it was just a client dinner, networking, nothing more. When I arrived, every window was shuttered, and 2 men in black suits stood by the door. They greeted me by name. "Brother Mason," one said. I corrected him, laughing. "I'm not a Mason." He only smiled and replied, "Not yet." Inside, the hall was filled with the scent of incense and polished wood. A long table stretched across the room, lined with candles. Around it sat about a dozen men, all in dark suits, all watching. Mr. Rowan gestured to the empty chair at the far end. "Please," he said, "you've earned a seat." I sat. The conversation was polite at first. Architecture, history, the restoration. Then Rowan raised his glass and said, "To new builders of the craft." Everyone drank. I did too, though the wine tasted metallic, strange. He began telling stories about cathedrals built with hidden measurements, about ancient guilds that used geometry to speak to the divine. His tone was hypnotic. The candlelight flickered with every word, shadows rising and falling on the walls, like breathing. I felt dizzy, caught between fascination and unease. "Would you like to see something few outsiders have seen?" he asked. Before I could answer, 2 men stood and drew back a curtain at the end of the hall. Behind it was a doorway carved into the stone, spirals, compasses, and unfamiliar symbols etched deep into the frame. Cold air spilled out like breath. They led me inside. The room beyond was circular, small, lit by a single lantern. In the center stood a pedestal draped with a black cloth. On it rested an object wrapped in velvet. Rowan lifted the cloth. A silver compass gleamed beneath the light, 3-legged, not 2. "This," he said, "is the builder's mark. It measures what can't be seen." He placed it in my hands. The metal was warm. A vibration pulsed through it, faint but alive. My vision blurred for a moment, as if the air bent around me. I heard whispers, soft, layered voices speaking in a language I didn't know. When I looked up, everyone was staring at me. "You felt it," Rowan said. It wasn't a question. I set the compass down, my hands shaking. "What is this?" He smiled gently. "You've already begun." The following week, I tried to distance myself. I told Rowan I was too busy to continue the project. He nodded, but didn't argue. Yet every night I received a call from an unknown number. When I answered, no one spoke, just faint tapping. 3 knocks, a pause, 3 more. After the 4th night, an envelope appeared on my doorstep. Inside was my project payment, more than double what was owed, and a note that said, "The work continues. Friday, same hour." I didn't go. I locked my doors, ignored the phone, tried to forget, but sleep wouldn't come. I kept hearing the whisper of those voices, low and rhythmic, like chanting through walls. Then, on Saturday morning, I found a photograph slipped under my door. It was me, standing in that circular room, holding the silver compass. My eyes were closed. Behind me, a faint shape glowed, something vast and symmetrical. On the back of the photo, in neat handwriting, were 4 words. "You've already been accepted." That's when I realized the truth. There hadn't been a choice. The moment I walked through that door, I joined something without meaning to. The work wasn't about restoration. It was about reconstruction. Of me. And every day since, I felt that same faint vibration under my skin, as if somewhere beneath the surface, the geometry is still drawing itself. I didn't go back to the lodge for 3 weeks, but the silence didn't help. The whispering stayed, faint, rhythmic, like someone speaking behind drywall. The compass and square symbol began to appear in places I'd never seen it before, on construction blueprints, in the grain of my desk, in the cracks of my bathroom mirror. I'd blink, and it would vanish. I told myself it was stress. Architects see patterns everywhere. That's our curse. But one night I received another envelope. No return address, just a small red wax seal stamped with the number 47 inside a triangle. Inside, a single line was written: "All builders return to the foundation." The next morning, I found a message on my answering machine. A woman's voice, calm, precise. "Mr. Keller, this is the Lodge of Restorers. Your attendance is confirmed for Friday midnight. Transportation will be arranged." Then silence. I deleted the message, but at midnight on Friday, a car stopped outside my building anyway. Black, engine still running. Through the rain, I saw Mr. Rowan in the back seat. He rolled the window down and said, "You've left the design unfinished. You don't walk away from what you build." I don't know why, but I opened the door and got in. We drove outside the city, deeper into countryside until I stopped recognizing roads. The night seemed thicker there. When the car finally stopped, I realized we weren't at the same lodge. This was different. Smaller, older, almost buried into the ground. No windows, only a single oak door carved with geometric markings. Inside, the air felt electric. The same 12 men from before stood around a circular table, candles burning at precise intervals. But now they wore dark aprons, embroidered with golden threads, each marked with different symbols. Rowan stood at the head. "Do you know why you're here?" he asked. I said nothing. He motioned for me to step closer to the table. In the center lay a parchment covered in diagrams, spirals, intersecting angles, and one enormous compass symbol drawn with ink that shimmered like mercury. Around it were initials written in blood-red script. I saw my own name at the bottom. Rowan handed me a fountain pen. "Sign, brother," he said softly. "You already belong." I shook my head. I never agreed to this. He smiled, almost fatherly. "That's what makes you worthy. True builders don't need to agree. They're chosen by the design itself." The men began to chant, not in English, not in Latin. The sound had weight, low and vibrating, filling the room like thunder under the skin. My vision blurred again, and for a moment I wasn't sure if I was still awake. The spiral on the parchment began to glow faintly, as if breathing. "Look closely," Rowan whispered. "You'll see your work." I looked down. The ink shifted. The drawings rearranged into blueprints of buildings I had designed years ago, my own projects, but altered. Hidden lines, added symbols, ratios that made no sense. The geometry folded in on itself, as if the walls of my buildings were being used for something invisible. "What are you doing?" I demanded. Rowan's expression changed, calm, reverent. "Every structure has purpose beyond the eye. You've been building temples since the day you picked up a pencil. You just didn't know whose pattern you were serving." I stepped back, but two men blocked the exit. Rowan lowered his voice. "You've already drawn the keys. All that remains is the gate." He reached beneath the table and produced a small wooden box, sliding it toward me. "Take it," he said. Inside, nestled in black velvet, lay the same three-legged compass I had held before, but now it glowed faintly red, pulsing with each beat of my heart. The vibration spread through the table, through the floor, into my spine. Rowan raised his hands, chanting louder. The others joined in. I heard the words clearly this time, sub fundamentum, beneath the foundation. The candles dimmed, the air thickened, humming like a struck wire. The spiral on the parchment opened, not physically, but in the way a reflection bends when disturbed. I saw depth inside it, like a tunnel. Then Rowan's voice, right beside my ear. "Every builder meets the foundation eventually." The ground shifted. The room darkened, the edges fading. I tried to move, but I couldn't tell where my body ended and the vibration began. For a second, I thought I saw the outline of another room beneath the floor, a reflection of this one, but inverted. Figures moved there, standing exactly where we stood, only facing upward. Then, everything went silent. The next thing I remember is waking in my car, parked in front of my apartment. The clock on the dashboard read 4:03 a.m. The compass sat on the passenger seat, cold and dull. I checked my phone. No calls, no messages. My hands trembled so violently I had to grip the wheel to stop them. When I went inside, I noticed something carved into my front door. 3 knocks, a pause, 3 more. Beneath them, the words, "You signed." I didn't sleep. I didn't go to work. I tried to call Rowan, but the number was disconnected. The next day, my office called to say the restoration project had been reassigned. No explanation. When I visited the site that evening, the building was gone. Not demolished. Gone. The lot was empty, as if nothing had ever stood there. I walked the perimeter half in disbelief until I saw it. The faint outline of a spiral carved into the earth where the foundation had been. That night the vibration returned. Stronger this time. It pulsed under the floorboards, through the walls, through me. I heard the whisper again. The same phrase, low and rhythmic. "The builder returns to the foundation." I covered my ears, but it wasn't sound. It was something deeper, beneath thought, beneath bone. When I looked at my reflection in the mirror, my pupils were dilated, and for a brief second, a red spiral glowed faintly in the reflection, swirling inward. That was when I understood I hadn't left the lodge. I never could. They didn't recruit me. They rebuilt me, and somewhere behind every door, that hum is waiting for the next builder to hear it. I didn't sleep for 3 nights. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that spiral glowing under the ground where the lodge used to be. The vibration had followed me home, faint at first, like the sound of a refrigerator humming in another room. But it grew louder each day until it settled into my chest, syncing perfectly with my heartbeat. On the 4th morning, I made a decision. I was going to destroy the compass. It was still in the small wooden box Mr. Rowan had given me, resting on the table beside my bed. Even through the velvet, I could feel it pulsing. When I opened the lid, the metal shimmered faintly in the sunlight, catching the same red hue I'd seen in the lodge. I wrapped it in a towel, drove to the river outside the city and hurled it into the water. It sank without a sound. For a moment the silence was almost peaceful. Then, as the ripples faded, a single bubble rose to the surface, followed by another and another, forming a perfect triangle before disappearing. That night the hum returned, louder, angrier. The walls trembled as if something massive moved beneath them. I could feel pressure building in the air, the kind that makes your ears ring before a storm. When I looked toward the window, my reflection was standing there before I reached it. The same face, the same movements, but the reflection didn't blink when I did. It smiled, and then the glass cracked. I ran from the apartment, down the street, anywhere the air didn't vibrate. I ended up outside the city in the same direction the car had taken me that first night. I told myself I'd find that buried lodge again, dig up whatever truth still hid beneath the ground. After 3 hours I found the field, flat, empty, silent. No spiral now, no marks, just wet grass bending under the wind. I was about to leave when I saw a flicker of light. A small candle burned near the center of the field, half buried in the soil. Its flame didn't move with the wind. I approached slowly. There was something drawn in the dirt around it. A perfect circle. Inside the circle, 3 small symbols carved in ash, the square, the compass, and a third shape I didn't recognize, like an open eye split by a line. A voice behind me said, "You can't destroy the tool, brother. It only returns to its maker." I turned. Rowan stood a few feet away, coat soaked from the rain, eyes bright and calm. I shouted, "What did you do to me?" He tilted his head. "You accepted the design." "I didn't accept anything." "You built for years before you understood who guided your hand. You drew their map every time you drafted a line." I felt heat rising behind my eyes. "You manipulated me. You used me." Rowan's smile faded. "Manipulation is persuasion through shadow. We simply turned you toward the light." He knelt beside the candle and began tracing something into the dirt. "Do you know why geometry is holy, Mr. Keller? Because it exists before belief. A man can worship any god, but he cannot build without shape. The craft doesn't demand faith, only precision." He finished the symbol and stood. The circle glowed faintly, the soil shifting as if something alive pulsed beneath it. "You cast the compass into water, yes? Then tell me, why does it still hum in your hands?" I looked down. My palms were trembling, but I wasn't holding anything. Still, the vibration was there, throbbing in my veins. "You see," he whispered, "the tool isn't metal, it's memory." The candle's flame flared higher, nearly white. The ground began to move, slow and deliberate, like the rise and fall of a giant breathing below the surface. Rowan stepped closer. "Every builder meets his foundation. You can fight it, or you can finish the work." I backed away. "No, I'm done." He sighed, almost sadly. "Then it will finish without you." The soil collapsed inward. A low roar filled the air as the circle widened, the candle vanishing into a pit of swirling black light. I stumbled backward and fell. The hum became deafening, vibrating through the bones of the earth. For a moment I saw outlines forming within the light, arches, staircases, columns, an entire structure being drawn beneath the ground, built from nothing but sound and motion, and then silence. The pit was gone. Rowan was gone. The field was still. I drove home in a daze, half believing I'd hallucinated everything. But when I walked inside, I froze. The compass was sitting on my kitchen counter, perfectly dry, glinting under the fluorescent light. I didn't touch it. That night, I woke to a scraping sound in the hallway. Something was carving into the wall. I grabbed a flashlight and followed the noise. The compass was there, floating, spinning slowly, its 3 points digging shallow lines into the plaster. They formed a spiral, the same one from the lodge. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The spiral began to rotate, glowing faintly red. I stepped back, hand over my mouth as the center of the spiral deepened, like a hole burned through reality. Inside it, I saw something vast. Pillars stretching into darkness, flickers of movement, like hundreds of silhouettes working in silence. I couldn't tell if they were building or unbuilding. Then a voice rose from the spiral, deep, layered, identical to the one that had haunted my dreams. "You built the door. Now you will keep it open." The light flared. The compass shot forward, embedding itself in the wall. The hum stopped. The room went still. I waited for hours before moving. When I finally approached, the compass was fused into the plaster, cold, motionless. The spiral had vanished. For the first time in months there was quiet, but that calm didn't feel like peace. It felt like waiting. Because somewhere deep inside, under the stillness, I could feel it again, faint and patient. The vibration of something alive beneath the foundation, drawing itself one line at a time. And I know it's not finished. It's been 41 days since the compass fused into the wall. At first I thought it was over. The silence felt final. But silence is a trick. It's the breath the world takes before something speaks through it. I kept hearing faint tapping under the floorboards. Not the hum anymore. This was slower, deliberate, like a craftsman striking stone with a chisel. 3 knocks, a pause, 3 more. I tore up half the floor, trying to find the source. Nothing, just cold concrete and dust. But on the 15th night, as I was replacing the boards, I saw something etched into the foundation itself. Tiny, perfect lines that weren't there before. They formed a triangle enclosing a spiral, glowing faintly in the dark. When I touched it, warmth spread up my arm. The hum returned instantly, louder, alive, resonating through my ribs. I stumbled back, heart racing. The lines shimmered, rearranging themselves into a new shape. One I recognized, my own name. I don't remember falling asleep that night, but I woke to find pages scattered across the floor, my old architectural sketches. Every one of them had been redrawn. The proportions were wrong, the symmetry twisted. When I looked closer, I realized the designs were T-random. Each blueprint now formed a piece of a larger pattern, a spiral. It wasn't just my work. It was a map. By dawn, I'd traced all of them together on the wall. The spiral extended outward from the center, my apartment, curling into neighboring streets, buildings, even through the city grid itself. Every angle, every street corner, every tower lined up perfectly. The entire city was part of it. That's when the phone rang. The voice was familiar, calm, deliberate. "Rowan." "You've built well," he said. "Where are you?" I asked. "Here, everywhere. You've drawn the last line." I demanded to know what they wanted from me. He laughed quietly. "It was never about wanting. You completed what was started long before you were born. The design is self-aware now. It needed a final builder to anchor it." "What does that mean?" I asked again. He paused. "It means the city will wake." The line went dead. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, I began to notice things. Streetlights flickering in perfect unison, pigeons landing on rooftops in the same triangular formation, construction sites operating with no workers visible, cranes moving on their own. And at night, the hum came from outside, not beneath me, but under the whole city. It started subtle, the vibration of passing trains, maybe, until one evening the floor actually moved. The walls groaned, the lights dimmed. I ran to the window and saw the skyline bending, not collapsing, but shifting, aligning. Every building leaned a fraction of an inch, every shadow turning toward a single, unseen point, somewhere beyond the horizon. That's when I understood what Rowan meant. We weren't building structures. We were building a shape so vast it could only be seen from above, or from beneath. The compass in my wall began to glow again, brighter than ever. The plaster cracked around it, light seeping through. A sound filled the room, not a hum this time, but a voice, deep and layered, the same one that had spoken through the spiral before. The foundation calls its architect. The air grew heavy. I felt the pressure pushing inward, pulling me toward the wall. The compass rotated slowly, its 3 legs tracing invisible lines through the air. Behind it, the light deepened, forming a tunnel of geometry and flame. I fought it, I screamed, but the sound dissolved into the vibration. Every atom in the room seemed to align. My body wasn't T-mine anymore, just another instrument measuring an equation I couldn't comprehend. Then came the knock. 3. Pause. 3 more. From inside the wall. "Step through," the voice said. "You've built your own door." I don't remember deciding to move. My hand touched the compass, and the world folded. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in my apartment anymore. I was standing in a massive hall made of black stone, its walls pulsing with faint red light. Rowan stood before me, wearing the same dark suit, but his eyes were gone, replaced by empty golden light. "You've returned," he said. "The builders welcome you." Behind him, hundreds of figures worked in silence, faceless men tracing symbols across endless walls. Some carved with tools, others simply pressed their palms against the stone and left marks of light. "What is this place?" I whispered. "The underside," Rowan said. "The true lodge, the structure beneath the world. We've built its reflection above for centuries, waiting for the surface to align." He stepped closer. "You were the final degree, the architect of completion." The realization hit me. The blueprints, the spiral, the geometry of my city, it was all part of this. I wasn't restoring old temples. I'd been designing the final layer of a temple the size of a civilization. "What happens now?" I asked. Rowan smiled. "Now the structure breathes." The walls around us began to vibrate. Light poured from the carvings, twisting upward like molten gold. The entire hall pulsed, alive, rhythmic, like a colossal heart beginning to beat. "Every oath is a stone," Rowan said. "Every secret, a foundation. The work is eternal." I backed away. The light burned brighter until it consumed everything. The sound was unbearable, a deep, resonant chord echoing through every nerve in my body, and then stillness. I woke up in darkness, no walls, no sound. For a moment I thought I was dead, but then I saw faint light above me, a circular outline, growing smaller. I realized I was underground, lying beneath concrete, staring up at the foundation of a building. The spiral was carved into the ceiling, glowing faintly red. At its center, the compass hung suspended, spinning slowly. I tried to move, but my body wouldn't obey. My hands were coated in dust, my veins glowing the same dull red as the spiral. I understand now. I didn't escape. I became part of it. The builders never recruit. They integrate. If you find this recording, if these words ever surface, don't look for the lodge. Don't study the geometry. Don't build anything that aligns with another man's design, because once you draw the first line, the foundation begins to draw you back. And when it's complete, when the hum finally stops, the work won't need architects anymore. It will build itself. End of confession. Recovered from an unfinished audio reel, found buried beneath a demolished apartment complex. The concrete foundation beneath the site was fused into a single, unbroken spiral.